cancer, faith, and family. Join me and my very special guests today for this important conversation on family vision. Hi, Rob Rienow here with Visionary Family Ministries. We're going to have an important conversation today with two people who I love and appreciate and admire very much. Let me introduce you to Barrett and Jen Johnson with Info for Families. Barrett and Jen, thank you so much for being a part of this today.
It's a pleasure.
Our joy, Rob.
It is.
When did we first meet?
I don't know, Rob. I think I heard you speak at a marriage AM/FM back in the day, maybe when they were having back in Phoenix 18, 20 years ago. And I heard you speak, and at one point I brought you into our church.
Several times.
I think maybe in Texas. I was still in Texas, maybe. I brought you into an event, and then we moved to Atlanta about 17 years ago, served in a large church there. I think we brought you in a few times then, and I think just networking at different marriage and family events over the years, just built a connection there, Rob. I've come to love and respect your ministry like nobody's business, and appreciate the friendship.
I love it. Well, we have so much appreciation and admiration for you and your ministry, Info for Families. In fact, you have a lot of books. Probably my personal favorite is Young Man's Guide to Awesomeness. Walked through that with two of my sons and one coming up right now. It's been tremendous. But I wanted to have a conversation with you guys today, not really about family ministry and that side of our lives, but the adventure and challenge and valley and mountaintop that the Lord has been bringing your family through, beginning just 6-7 months ago. And I wanted to see if we want to just dive right into the deep end and tell us what happened in December of 2022.
Yeah, we're a unique family. We have 5 kids and 7 grandkids, and
you have 7 grandkids?
I have 7 grandkids now, Rob. Yeah, we're too young and good looking to have 7 grandkids, right? Are you telling me, right? You can believe it.
We've got number 2 on the way, but
Time
man,
to play catch up, Rob. Let's go.
praise the Lord.
I'm excited for y'all.
But Jennifer has had a fragile health. She has multiple sclerosis, and she has a back that's had several fusions. And so Jennifer's in kind of a fragile health and been that way. And I've been completely healthy all my life. Zero flaws, bulletproof.
Not even a cavity.
I mean, I've had that be my normal.
Zero flaws. That's what everyone says about Barrett.
In late 2022, had some weird things happen in my mouth, and doctor said, well, it's just nothing. And finally, an ENT looked a little closer and said, well, let's rule out some ugly stuff, and did a MRI and saw a mass up under my submandibular gland, kind of under my chin where your salivary glands are. Saw a mass there and said, well, let's, do a biopsy on it. And I said, well, biopsy's going to scare me because you're going to spread something around. Does this have to come out, whether it's malignant or benign? Yeah, it needs to come out. Well, let's just schedule surgery. And it was at the end of the year. Earliest we can get in was January the 13th, I believe. And so we did surgery that day, just hoping and praying this was just a little benign mass needed to remove. And Jen, you were in the waiting. I don't remember any of this because, of course, I was under anesthesia. But what did you experience in the waiting room?
And leading up to surgery, we just called it a big fat nothing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, all of our friends and family and prayer team and ministry, we just all prayed that the surgery would go fine and the big fat nothing would go away. And even in my spirit, I felt like it was benign. And I do have a PSA that if anything is ever numb or tingling on your body, you really do quickly need to go to a doctor, because the end of his tongue was numb and tingly and felt like it had been burned by hot coffee or something like that. And my friend is a really great doctor, and she said, if you ever have that, something is growing there. And we had no clue. So we kind of didn't rush to the doctor. So we get to the doctor. We all think it's benign. My 2 oldest married children were in the waiting room with me. And they told me it's going to be a 2-hour surgery. And we sat in the waiting room for 2 hours, just jibber jabbering and having a great time visiting with one another. And then the 2-hour mark passed. And I was like, okay, nobody's texted me, because nowadays they text you on your phone, even from the operating room and stuff. And I went up to a lady and just said, I haven't heard from anybody. It's over 2 hours now, and I'm a little concerned. And she checked in and she said, they still have him open and they're still working on him. And I didn't get upset. The kids even say, I'm just so surprised, Mom, that you weren't upset, but I really do just have to testify that that's a moment that God was with me. And everybody in the waiting room, the doctors would come out and say, "Hey, Mrs. Kelly, your husband is finished. Would you like to come back with him?" But with us, they had a volunteer come get me and my daughter and my son and take us into a room. And when we got in that room,
Never a good sign.
I just told Lindsay and Landon, I said, "This is not going to be good." And I asked Landon to turn his phone on and to record it, because I knew my mind wasn't going to be able to take in what the doctor was fixing to say. This doctor does this surgery 2 times a year at the most. And it's just a very rare kind of cancer. It's called cystic adenoid carcinoma. He sat down in the chair and I could tell he was upset. Like he just said, "I hate to share with you what I'm fixing to say." And he told us what it was and explained that he took a nerve that it had metastasized onto, and Barrett for the rest of his life will only have function of taste and feel of half of his tongue. That was one of the ramifications of surgery. But then the thing that he said in that meeting that I'll never forget is, "It comes back."
He did research in the ER while I was open. He just in the OR, he just did some research. What am I dealing with here? And one thing he found out about this very rare cancer is that we can eradicate it. We can even treat it, which we did. But it has a nature to come back in your lungs or someplace else in your body later on. And so it was a tough bit of news to share.
That statement was very tough for me, because you always want to have cancer and then go into remission. But now God's given me such a peace that it comes back and that they're going to be watching my husband all the time and maybe for the rest of his life. I'd kind of rather have that than being told I'm in remission and possibly coming back and us not knowing.
So can I fast forward? We got it removed, recovery from that, went and saw MD Anderson in Houston, which our family lives. They said we can treat you really well at Emory in Atlanta, which is where we live now. And so I got on 7 weeks later, got on a very aggressive 6.5 week radiation and chemotherapy regimen. Did that, and it was fine for the first half. Second half, started feeling the effects of that. Anytime you zap yourself with radiation here, it affects your mouth and your throat. And so after the last couple of weeks into the next 6 or 7 weeks, probably a couple months, I couldn't eat solid food, and just a slow recovery process through all that treatment and then the recovery of that. And finally, the last couple of weeks, I've been doing really better. I'm eating solid food now. I feel fantastic now, honestly. I feel great.
Yeah,
a couple of ramifications of it right now, but the recovery from all that nastiness of the treatment, which was brutal. And now we just wait for a July 10th, which is 3 or 4 weeks from now. Scans just to do head to toe. Did this work, and is it eradicated fully here? We're hoping for good news along those lines. But also look at other places in my body. Is there any sign of anything else happening, to know benchmarks for that for the future? As Jennifer mentioned, 6 months, a year from now, let's do it again and see if anything else is growing. So this is something it's kind of our new normal. And it's been because of, again, being bulletproof and, complete clean bill of health for 55 years of my life. It's been weird getting used to this reality of I've got this thing now that's a part of my story now that's, we've got to just adjust to and live with and move forward on. And so it's been a significant change in our life. And one that Jennifer said, it's not like we're going to go, hey, a year later, we're fine, you're cancer free, go on with your life. I don't think we'll ever have that. And that's kind of been the hardest adjustment for us to get used to.
One thing that I appreciated from across the miles over the last 6 months was your periodic updates. I think I probably saw them on Facebook most, but maybe some emails. And I appreciated the, I don't know, I guess say rawness and candor of those. I mean, there was the medical side of the update, just letting us know. So those of us, many that were praying and continue to pray for you, but also kind of the spiritual, emotional, relational side of this. And I kind of wanted to press into that a little bit. What's been kind of the impact of this for you guys in your marriage relationship? And I know I've got a whole series of questions for you, and I know that some of the questions are not going to have entirely sanitized answers because, like you said, that we're not talking about some brutal valley you went through and it's now completely in the rearview mirror. This is something that is present, and thank God for the positive trajectory you're on right now, but we haven't closed the door on this. But I just love you talk about the impact on your marriage. In what ways was it hard? In what ways has God used this to bring you closer?
Give me a start.
Sure.
I think we said at the beginning of this, we know people who go through hard times medically with themselves or their children, that seasons like this can either make you closer or it can make you further apart. And we've seen that. People, walk through special needs children and that kind of thing. The divorce rate for those couples is very, very high, which is, we said, that's not going to happen to us, obviously. But we want this to be a season where we grow closer together. And that was our ideal and our goal. And in some ways, I think we accomplished that goal. Other ways, I feel like we kind of struggled. It was hard. Hiccuping along in our lives to stay connected and to draw close together. And we're better now than we were before at the beginning, but we can't say that January to now has been up and to the right and a fantastic growth in our relationship.
Yeah.
It hasn't. There's been some difficult seasons. I think in many ways, I would say this, and Jen, you added this. I think in many ways, Jen's a caregiver and she's nurtured her children or grandchildren. I think she kind of looked forward to nurturing me and kind of being, well, who's the famous person in history, the Florence Nightingale, the kind of let me love on my husband during the season,
Yeah.
that will draw us close together. In many ways, there wasn't much she could do for me. It wasn't like I needed to be tucked in bed at night and nurtured that way because I was so ill. I kept on functioning, and I was driving to therapy in downtown Atlanta, 40 minutes away, 5 days a week. And I was zipping to town through traffic for 15 minutes of therapy and then an hour of traffic getting home. Most of those days I said, Jen, I don't want you to be burdened with this. Her back is bad. Don't come sit in a car for this longer. So I did a lot of that on my own. I don't want to burden you with that. And
You didn't need me.
Jen, I want you to
Yeah,
press
you
into
didn't
that. I wanted you to press into this. You were prepping yourself as a loving, faithful wife, right, to be on caregiver mode. And was it frustrating? Like, how did you navigate that you felt like he had needs, but you couldn't meet him? I want to hear about that.
That is, I just can't even put into words how hard it is to watch your spouse suffer.
Mhm.
And I think that was the hard part. And again, there was not a thing I could do. I'm serious. Like even, there was no bandages. There were no, I don't know. There just wasn't anything that I literally physically could do, because even if I drove all the way to downtown Atlanta, he goes into a room, puts a gown on, and
Where it's men only.
where it's all men, and they put something on his face that shows the radiologist where to do the radiation. So there's not even a waiting room to sit with him through every day of going to proton radiation. So I just really wasn't needed by him. And
I may have dropped the ball there of not needing you as much as, or expressing needs. I ate 3 smoothies a day that I fit him with the configuration of this smoothie, high protein. And it was almost like I know how to make it. Let me just make it, as opposed to having to burden you with making that or whatever.
Well, and I was going to say, even when he had to only drink smoothies, we were very close to getting a feeding tube inserted into his stomach because it just hurt. He just literally couldn't eat. So he would pound down in as fast as he could a smoothie, but it really needed to be at a temperature that was right for him. Like, I couldn't go in there and just make a cold, nice smoothie and go, here's your smoothie, honey. And I made it according to his directions. He legit needed to put his finger in it, and it needed to be a certain temperature to go down his throat. And I could never in a million years explain to you what his neck looked like. We have 7 grandchildren, and when they came over to visit, we had to cover it with a bandage because it was, one day it looked like the worst sunburn you've ever seen in your life. And then the next day it erupted like a volcano. And I cried for 2 days looking at him. Just looking at his neck for 2 days. I cried for 2 days.
So I think the rawness of the pain of what we were going through, it's not like it disconnected us, but it was just so raw and painful that the last thing this sounds terrible, the last thing on my mind was, let's be close and intimate and tender and gentle one another. I was just miserable. I was just in so much pain and misery that it's almost like to a fault, and I hate this, what I did.
Say that.
Well, it's almost like I just want to pull away and go, let me be sit in my corner and be miserable and not burden anybody else with this, you know?
And I mean, it affected him not wanting to talk. And I am married to a very talkative guy. So I missed him. Like, I truly missed him. Even though we were in the same house together, he didn't talk. He was in a severe pain. We could, I mean, just you take so much for granted.
Well,
but
I think somehow
at night before we go to bed, we always kiss at night before we go to bed. I mean, he couldn't even be kissed. I mean, I could kiss his head or his hand or his arm or something, but I mean, we couldn't kiss, we couldn't talk. He was in misery, and we kind of got to this side, and I'm like, darn, it didn't like go the perfect way I thought it was going to go, where we were going to be just so much more close, and it would just be like la la la, and we would have this amazing marriage story to tell.
We went on a cruise just last week. We had some credit with a cruise line because something back at our anniversary. We went on a 10-day cruise, two of us, and we had a great time. And we were close. Awesome. I felt great. You know, I was eating well. We did fun activities together. We were intimate. It was just, we had a great time together. Mm-hmm. And in the middle of all that, we kind of had this, how do we miss out on this for the last 4 months when we were so miserable? And I was kicking myself going, I'm an idiot for not trying harder to connect. And so we're good. And we came to the other side and we're better now. But again, we wouldn't claim to say it was rainbows and butterflies.
But in reality, you know, especially when you have cancer of the mouth, neck region, it's just a very hard, it's not like your foot or something, or I don't know.
And I think here's the thing about Wes. Let me summarize this way. I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. I'm always in a good mood. I'm always positive and optimist. That's who I am. I just kind of warned Jennifer in January after the surgery, and this came to be true. I kind of said, there may be days where I'm a cranky puss and I'm not going to be very nice to be around. And I was never angry or mad or anything like that, but I wasn't me.
And I live with chronic pain every day of my life because of the things that I have. So I totally understand that. Mm-hmm. So I was very understanding of that. And I never got upset or disappointed in him not being happy and go lucky and stuff. But, so it was tough, to be honest with you. Yeah. And I want to be truthful about that, because I don't want Christian families or even people who are just getting to know the Father think that cancer is definitely going to bring you closer and this is going to be just the most amazing time you've ever had. I think it does. It has for us, but now it's kind of like
out the other side.
Out on the other side. I mean, who wants to argue about something really stupid now? Not me.
Yeah.
And I argued about a lot of dumb things over the course of our marriage. Who wants to not kiss every night before you go to bed when you've gone through this and you can't kiss? I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, he even like kissed me lightly the other night, and I'm like, that's all I get. I was like, man, we were going to kiss well after going through.
Yeah, you're saving up for some awesome kissing.
Like, come on, honey. You know, so. You know, I think it will bring us even closer on the other side and in the follow-up.
And even, some lessons learned now. I think if there's another season down the road, it's hard. I think we will be better equipped for it, perhaps.
Right. We'll see. We're going to take a break in just a minute and come back for another episode next week. But I want to ask you about the reaction from your kids and grandkids. And I realize it's not a singular reaction because you've got so many of them. But can you describe for me the spectrum of the reaction for them, relationally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever comes to mind?
Very, very, very difficult, because they know Barrett to be the optimist, and he is just the most fun dad. He is the most fun pops. Trying to explain this to our 10-year-old grandson all the way down to
babies,
you know, a baby that's 15 months old. But our children loved us and took care of us, and they all live within 30 minutes of us. And I'm proud of the way that they love their daddy.
It's good parenting.
I want you to know,
it's good parenting.
No, it's not. It's the grace of God.
Yes, it is.
But it is beautiful. I think probably one of the most beautiful things I've seen in my life are my grandchildren praying over their pops before surgery, after surgery. I think it was, I I pray it's a monumental discipleship moment for all of my grandchildren and for my kids. We just have never been through anything like this in our own home. We've been through a lot of things as a family and losing family and stuff like that. But I think it was all very, very good. And I think we've all learned so much from it, and don't take a thing for granted.
Yeah, I would say this, that's them to us. And the way they cared for us was, we made us very proud. From me to them, if I could say this, for someone who has always been healthy and always been good, to be sick and to have something that suddenly slows you down a little bit and makes you look at life and the value of life and every day. It shifted my thinking and my attitude, even my actions. Mm-hmm. Related to when we have a 15-year-old daughter still at home. She's our youngest. When she says, "Hey, Dad, I'm walking the dog. You want to go walk with me?" And maybe before this, I would say,
"It's your dog."
"Yeah, I'm busy doing something. No, you take care of your dog. I'm going to stay here. Now, let me get my shoes and I'm going to go walk with you as you walk." Or my 22-year-old son who just finished college says, "Hey, Dad, I haven't seen you a little bit. Can I come over and hang out?" Heck yeah. Any invitation like that, the answer is yes. A chance to go spend some quality time with Jen, I'm going to do that. It's made me value every conversation, every moment, every memory-making opportunity to just step into those with just devouring those moments, because I know they're precious and I do not take them for granted, maybe like I had in the past. And I think everyone I've talked to has been through something like this, looks back and says, "I'm thankful for the gift of cancer because it does now make me value my relationships and those things that are close to me and these memories that I can make far more than I ever did before." And I get a taste of that now, and I truly do get it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for sharing. We're going to push pause because we're going to come back for another episode next week. But for the Family Vision community who wants to get connected with your ministry, where would they find you?
Well, Info for Families. Info is an acronym for Imperfect Normal Families Only. And I've blogged under that name for years, and then we started a nonprofit. And so Imperfect Normal Families Only is our platform, infoforfamilies.com. We love doing some of the things you do, Rob, just coaching, encouraging marriages and parents. But we do step into that space that's unique related to sexuality and technology, and helping parents have the tools they need to have a lot of those conversations. And so infoforfamilies.com, where you can find a lot of that stuff.
I love it. And we love having you as a part of the Family Vision community, and being able to connect with you here on the podcast or YouTube or Rumble is great, but we would love to see you face to face. We have got live Visionary Family conferences coming up this fall in Nashville and Jacksonville and Green Bay, and I'm sure others that I am forgetting. We also have a family worship night, a Thanksgiving ball here in the Chicago area. And then 2024, two very big events coming your way, our VFM Israel Family Tour, last 2 weeks of March, and then our VFM Weekend Away at the Kalahari Resort up in Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin in June. You can find all the information for all those events on our website at visionaryfam.com. Click the events button. And we'd love to hear from you personally. Maybe you have some prayer needs related to a battle like the Johnsons are going through. You can email me and Amy directly. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to pray with you and for you. You can email us at podcast@visionaryfam.com, podcast@visionaryfam.com. And we look forward to our next time together with you on Family Vision.